This week, to prove just how ineffective it is to defer your most important chance to make a splash, I will be skipping the opening this week. Kind of takes a little bit of life out of the show, doesn't it? Don't worry, though, because we'll rebound, because cats eat birds, and the Bengals are coming to town next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Hey, Packers fans, this is your unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, and these are the podcasters you're looking for. One of these guys has been to the birthplace of Curly Lambeau, and the other guy, well, he has too. And now it's time to go, Pack, go, with your hosts, Wayne Henderson and Troy Heinritz.
Thanks again for joining us on your Packers Fan Podcast by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. We've got our feedback hotline ready for you. Just dial 920-372-2546, although it has a lot more pizzazz when you say 920-3-PACK-GO, or simply anywhere in the world, PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback to let your voice be heard. This is episode 138 of your Packers Fan Podcast, recorded September 20th, 2017, and the show notes are at PackersFanPodcast.com/138.
On this week's edition, we'll be talking about all of the injuries. Oh my word, it's only week 2. Good thing that bye week is week 8. And then how much did the loss of Mike Daniels actually crush our defense? And we'll talk about the 12th man. Was it the officiating crew this week? I wonder.
Oh boy. And I might also have to rant a little bit about artificial turf, but Troy is going to have his keys to the Packers getting back in the win column this week, this time against the Bengals, and we have great feedback from you, the G-Force, and not replacing my natural lawn with any hazardous artificial turf. I'm at Wayne Henderson, your voice acting, podcasting part owner of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers.
And I had something really clever to say here, but someone picked it before I was able to. So I'm just at Troy Heinritz, your gold ticket package holding part owner of your Green Bay Packers. And we are the Packers Fan Podcast, available on demand and on the go with our free Packers Fan Podcast apps. They're for iOS and Android. So if you are coming from Milwaukee to drive up for the game this week, you can go ahead and download those apps and listen to us on your nice slow drive up 41 or 43.
Why is it a slow drive? Is just always a lot of traffic?
Yeah, because everybody's going to Lambeau. That's where you want to be.
Well, that is definitely where I want to be. Now, this week in our weekly Monday Twitter and Facebook group poll, this one was almost unanimous. Posted out, even in this week's loss, there were some highlights in the game against the Falcons. Which one was your highlight? 86% of the people that voted on Facebook and Twitter said Ty Montgomery.
Let's just clear this out right away. 10 carries, 35 yards. Not so stellar, but he did get a rushing touchdown. But then he had 6 receptions on 7 targets, 75 yards, 1 TD. So he's a running back. He's a wide receiver. He's the man who sounds like we'll be getting a rest. We'll get into that later.
Oh, my goodness. He is your number 88, Ty Montgomery. Woo! 2% of the voters said Martellus Bennett. And then there was like other without any. Well, let's see. Jackson Smith on Facebook in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community commented and said, Ty Montgomery and Kevin King both had a great night.
I agree. Kevin King had one heck of a game coming in. I was really shocked to see him be able to step up so quick because it seemed like he was non-existent during the preseason. So kudos to Kevin King for putting out a pretty good show for his first time out.
We need as much help as we can get. And Sue Checky replied, not a doubt in my mind, Ty Montgomery. So the Texas people, they support Ty Montgomery, and basically he was the star of this game as far as the Packers go. We don't care who was the star of the Falcons because, we're moving on from that.
I do have to clarify. I said last week that Marty Saurus Rex would get 80 yards and a touchdown in this game, and he would have if he would have hung on to the football because he was targeted a lot in this game, for the record.
Yeah, he was. I thought he did a lot of good things. He did some good blocks, and there was a drop or two, but compared to everybody else,
or 6,
he still did pretty good. I mean, not great, but the whole team was missing something. So,
yeah.
I mean, Ty Montgomery, he was definitely a highlight. Kevin King. And I think the fact that the Packers, for all the problems and all the things that were against us, I know I'm sounding like a Raiders fan, but the Packers never did give up. They kept at it.
Well, can I just make this statement right here, right now? It's late January 2017. We're going into the third quarter, and the Packers are losing to the Atlanta Falcons 31-7. Fast forward to September 2017, going into the third quarter. And guess what? The Packers were losing to the Falcons 31-7. Deja vu, Wayne.
Boy, different stadium, same score. The Packers did end up, I think the final score, the Packers had a lot more than they did last January.
Yes, I think that was the key, though, is that they did not give up, and they really did try to play to the end. You know, they score one more touchdown, and they're within 3. So it's not like they were too far behind in this game. Can I go on my soapbox now, or are we still doing the highlights?
One quick highlight, and then to the soapbox. You know, as Vince Lombardi once said, we didn't really lose. We just had less points when time ran out. So if we could have had another quarter, who knows? Let's get onto your soapbox, Troy. I'm ready. I'm sitting down.
Sunday night football in a quote-unquote dome, even though the roof, what little roof there was open around the quote-unquote halo, as they called it. Now, I love that Michelle Tafoya started out the pregame show. Did you notice that she mentioned that some of the people had the flu? I was like, holy crap, she stole Wayne's line.
I heard that, but I was not going to bring it up. But I did hear it.
So we know Balaga's going to be out. Then we find out that we lost Bakhtiari, so now we're down 2 tackles. And you're like, oh my gosh, the game hasn't even started yet. This is going to be a disaster. And then we win the coin toss. You're Sunday Night Football, brand new stadium. We had the same exact thing in week 2 last year against the Minnesota Vikings, and we lost against the Vikings. We're going to lose against the Falcons. You win the coin toss, and what do? You defer. Again, you have one opportunity to basically take the ball, go down the field, shut the fans up, completely take over the game, and you give it away. I don't understand. I am so frustrated that literally we said, oh, thanks for the gift, and by the way, we'll just spot you 7 before the game even started. We need to stop deferring, and we need to start just putting the dagger into people in the opening drive. I am sick and tired of seeing the deferment. The only time you defer is if you're outside at Chicago or outside in New York. And New York doesn't even have outside anymore because they're playing in their brand new stadium. So unless you're like outside in Chicago where the wind is swirling and you need the wind in the fourth quarter, like there's no reason to defer. Take the ball, 7 points, go up, get the job done. Because this just makes us look weak. And we looked weak on Sunday. I'm sorry, we did.
And I've got my hands on my computer screen right now saying, yeah.
And we can say we because we are shareholders. So we are the team.
That's right. We are your part owners of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. And I totally agree, because taking the crowd out of it, even halfway, would have solved a whole myriad of problems. And of course, there's the whole butterfly effect. I know we can't rewrite history, but all because of that coin toss and who got the ball first. That could have been all the catalyst that led to those injuries that might not have happened if we would have taken the ball and marched down the field to start the game.
Exactly right. You go up, you put the dagger in them from the beginning, and it's a completely different game strategy. The minute you're down by 7, all of a sudden it's, oh my gosh, we get pass. No run game whatsoever. And then Jamal Williams gets rotated in there, and it's like, just put Jones in. Jones was doing great in the preseason. Let Jones run the ball, especially if you're going to supposedly give Ty Montgomery some time off now because we have to watch him, make sure he's not too overused. He's your number 1 guy on the team. Run that guy into the ground because nobody else is producing anything because they're all hurt.
It's absolutely crazy. We always talk, the team, the Green Bay Packers always talk about how we're going to have a running game. We've got the answer. And what do? Like 3-4 runs. And the next thing you know, pass.
Well, you got to, and it's 31-7. I mean, let's be real.
At that point, but I mean, earlier in the game, the entire first half, there could have been a lot more run plays, but
and remember, 5-yard passes are just as good as a run.
That's profound.
We don't need the long ball. Stop looking for the long ball. Just dump it off to the run, dump it off the tie. That's what you did. 6 out of 7 for 75 yards and a tutty. Just dump it off the tie. Dump it off short. Oh my gosh.
Because there were a few occasions where Aaron Rodgers was taking the hike, getting the ball, and getting rid of it before I even knew what happened. But most of the time, like you said, he's looking for the long ball target. And I know we were short a couple of offensive linemen, but still, AR-12 was hit way too many times, and a couple of them were vicious hits.
Yeah, we've given up 7 sacks already this season. 7.
We've only played 2 games.
I know.
And some of Aaron's throws, I hate to say it, but they were a little off.
Just a tad.
But oh my goodness, where did they get these officials? I saw all sorts of conspiracy theories online. I mean, I don't know if they're just inept or blind or they just hate the Packers or if something else was going on and the NFL wanted to make sure that the Atlanta Falcons won their home opener in their new stadium, but it was a disaster.
It was horrible. Just horrible. Now, some things I could totally understand. The first pick play that Marty got called for coming across, where it was a beautiful play and a beautiful gain, and it probably would have switched the tide of the game at that momentum and that moment. But when you watch the replay, he did pick the guy. I mean, it was like post up, stand there, take the hit. I mean, it was pretty obvious. But the second pick, like no way in hell was that a pick. I have no idea why they called that one a pick. And then the Randall Cobb touchdown that gets called back, like that totally changes momentum of the game if that's not called back. It was just horrible all around. Horrible.
Yeah, it was just darn pathetic. You would have thought that, I know I sound like a Raiders fan, but we was robbed, Troy. We was robbed.
In our sleep, because that's what most people were doing by the third quarter.
It was hard to watch. I know that some of our diehard Packers fans over in Ireland and England and around Europe.
3 in the morning.
They had to go to bed. You gotta, I forget what the rule's called, but basically you gotta cut your losses when you gotta work the next day.
Mama's got to bring home the bacon tomorrow. I gotta turn this puppy off and go to bed. Thanks for hanging in there, though, guys. We appreciate the support.
Absolutely. And then, of course, what did that stadium cost? Like over $1 billion or some insane amount of money?
Yeah, I got an idea. How about if you have an open roof at the top, instead of spending $1 bazillion on a scoreboard that nobody can see because it goes curved and round in a circle, that literally it's so high up, you have to crane your neck in order to see it. You could probably buy some grass.
Exactly. Artificial turf, I don't care how cutting edge it is. Get some grass. I mean, like you said, the roof opens, and in Arizona, they just wheel the entire stadium's lawn outside.
Exactly.
Water it, take care of it.
You can grow grass in Arizona. You can grow grass in Atlanta.
Amen to that. I really believe the artificial turf was at least partially to blame for some of the injuries on both teams.
Agree.
Come on, people. It's 2017.
Stop making the stuff.
Well,
if you can make vinyl wood flooring out of PVC and make it look like hardwood, you should be able to make better artificial turf. I'm just saying.
If you can make that new Coke 0 calorie soda that tastes as good as regular Coke, why can't you put grass in every stadium in the NFL?
Agree.
Well, I just had to get that taste out of my mouth. I gargled with Listerine, hydrogen peroxide. I brushed my teeth and brushed my tongue. Got to get it just out of my system. That game's out of the way. The pressure of going undefeated is off. We're going back home to Lambeau. We've got a couple of very winnable games coming up. Please, no memories of last year's game against the Titans or whatever it was that should not have happened.
Yeah, shake it to your core. That's this week, by the way. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Okay.
But first, we got some really awesome voicemails from all of you, the G-Force, on last week's matchup. First one up, I believe, is Miguel.
Hey, Wayne and Troy, it's Miguel in Phoenix. Oh, man, Mondays are tough after a loss. I'm just heading into work right now, and I got to go see all the other football fans here. But, you know, when you're a fan of the Packers, it's always easy. You know, we've had it pretty good, and even though yesterday was tough, overall we've had it pretty good. But it's hard watching our Packers get banged up. I think I remember last season sometime you guys had mentioned something about the training staff, the athletic staff, and the medical team. I don't know, maybe it's just because I follow the Packers more than any other team, obviously. But it seems like we get really banged up, and it's only week 2, and we already have a bunch of guys hurt. I'm hoping they can get healthy for the next game. But does it seem to you guys like we have an abnormally high number of injuries, you know, within the Packers? I don't know if it's the same for other teams, but I'll tell you what, another thing that I was kind of thinking about is with all the great players in the NFL, you have, you know, Tom Brady, Zeke Elliott, Marshawn Lynch. There's a lot of guys that you necessarily don't want to see on the other side of the field, but there's one person that, you know, usually gets me an uneasy feeling in my stomach, and that's Julio Jones. Doesn't seem like we really have an answer anytime that we play him. I remember a couple years ago, I think it was on a Monday night, where he just completely torched us. But yeah, that's somebody that I really don't enjoy seeing on the other side of the field, because it seems like he usually has a big game. Another thing is I love seeing Ty Montgomery running. I mean, he looks so strong. The way he runs, every time there's contact, he's moving forward. And I can't wait to see, you know, what he does in the next game, but I think he's doing awesome. Another thing I wanted to mention was throughout the off season, supporting the Packers Fan Podcast through your guys' Amazon link. One thing that I really like is that, you know, I can buy the things that I was going to buy anyway. Even if I wasn't a listener of the Packers Fan Podcast, I was going to buy these things anyway. But if I go to PackersFanPodcast.com and click on the support link, I can buy everything that I buy through the Amazon link and support the show. I think I bought like a charcoal barbecue, some things to fix the house, and some stuff for my daughter's birthday. So it's great to be able to get those things and help the podcast at the same time. I can't wait to listen to the podcast, Green and Gold, till I'm dead and cold. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go, Miguel. You absolutely rock. Thank you so much for using our Packers Fan Podcast Amazon affiliate link. Every little bit helps out, and we greatly appreciate your support. Troy made a lot of great points about we just don't have an answer for Atlanta for 3 years in a row now or something.
But I think we're getting there, because remember, Julio Jones only had 5 catches on the entire night. Now, granted, those 5 catches were for 108 lost number yards. And I think that that's actually a much improved from the last time we played Julio Jones, where it was probably more like 200 or 300 yards. It seemed like last time we played him, especially last regular season. So I think we're making some progress, and Julio Jones was shut down for a good portion of the night. I mean, he was targeted 9 times, but only caught 5. So I think that's pretty good. He gets the explosive big play. And again, if you have time to get the big play, you'll get the big play. And that's because we were down Mike Daniels in the pass rush.
Yeah, and it just goes to show, more importantly than ever, that we need to end up with more victories during the season than the Falcons, so that if we do meet again in the playoffs, this year it'll be at Lambeau Field in January on grass. I think the tide will totally be turned in those instances.
And Miguel brought up a good point, too, about athletic training and the doctors and the staff
Yes.
and why we're so banged up and blah, 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 blah. Honestly, I think it comes down to practice. We've babied people so much now in the preseason where we don't want them to get hurt in the regular season. And then because they don't have that game activity, that game contact, the tried and true methodology that's worked for so many years, by the time they get to game situation and game speed, that's why people are getting hurt, because they haven't built up the tolerance yet in those 4 preseason games and all of the 2-a-days and OTAs and all of that stuff. They need to be practicing so their body is conditioned to be able to handle the rigor of the 16-week schedule.
Yeah, I saw somebody post on Twitter that it seems like every player on the Packers is made out of glass. And I don't think it's that extreme. That was a vivid visual right there. And yeah, Mike McCarthy, he said something, I think it was even in today's press conference, where they asked him about that, and he was not pleased with being asked about that, and said, look, we've got a system, we're doing everything right. there just doesn't seem to be an answer why we seem to have more injuries than everybody else. Now, granted, I'm certainly thankful that we are not the Indianapolis Colts, which with Andrew Luck, I don't know what's going on there. Will he ever be healthy?
Probably not.
So every week they're trotting out a different quarterback, just trying anything. So,
hey, we did that one season too, and we still made the playoffs.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I think we had 5 different quarterbacks in a 3-week
2-week span. Yeah.
It's incredible. Let's go back to the listener line at 920-3-PACK-GO.
Hey, this is Andre from LA. Very disappointed in the performance against the Falcons. I appreciate the heart the team showed. They kept sticking with it. I'm actually glad that the team kept trying to figure out ways to kind of run an offense against the Falcons that we can use later on down the road in the playoff in case we have to play them in Atlanta. But it was very frustrating at times to watch the Atlanta Falcons, especially to start the game, basically just march up and down the field against the defense. I understand there were a lot of injuries that happened really early in the game, especially on the defensive side of the ball, but we couldn't really get any pressure on Matt Ryan. We certainly couldn't stop the run. We couldn't stop Julio Jones. We couldn't stop Sanu. It was very frustrating. Just hope to see a better defensive scheme against teams like that, because that's really the team, I think, more than any in the NFC that we have a trouble matching up against. As always, a big fan of the podcast. Look forward to hearing you guys on whenever the podcast comes out. Love you guys. Go Pack, go. Great and gold till I'm dead and cold.
Love you too, Andre. Nice. So, a lot to digest there, but I think Sanu was the unsung hero of this game for the Falcons. I mean, he really came out of nowhere, and he was pulling down, I think, more passes and touches than Julio Jones was in a lot of ways, because it just seemed like he was all over the field, ready to catch anything Matt Ryan dropped his way. I think our biggest challenge in this game was losing Mike Daniels, because when you lost Mike Daniels, you didn't have the pass rush. When you don't have the pass rush, then you have the chance of the secondary looking at the secondary of last year, because guess what? It was the secondary of last year, minus Ladarius Gunter, but it was the same secondary. So like we said against Seattle, coming out of that game, because the pass rush was so fierce, getting to Russell Wilson and the gang, the cornerbacks weren't exposed at all during the Seattle contest. So now we really know what our secondary looks like. And then going into Cincinnati, well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
It's hard to believe how much of a difference one player can make. Mike Daniels, when he went down, I know he's a big force on the field, but also he seems to be like the identity of the defense, at least so far in this early season. Mike, we need you. Get well soon. Definitely. Because the Bengals are coming to town and they've got revenge on their mind. But like you said, more on that in a minute.
Hi, my name is Steven from North Dakota. I just want to say the real winners of this game were the referees. Between the quote-unquote pass interference at the end of the second quarter, which, go figure, led to a touchdown for Atlanta, and the quote-unquote, if you would call it that, fumble and not incomplete pass at the beginning of the third quarter, the refs were just making bad calls left and right, and it constantly helped the Falcons. Maybe I'm being salty. What do you guys think? Thanks. Love your podcast and keep up the great work.
Steven, thank you so much for your call. Calling in from North Dakota. Great to hear from you. The real winners were the referees. No, I don't think you're being salty at all. I totally agree. And although the outcome wasn't as valuable as what happened in the Seahawks Hail Mary game, this had more bad calls in it than the Hail Mary game.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the whole backward, lateral, forward pass, I mean, it was super close. It was hard. You can't really tell on the camera angles, too, because the camera angles are angled a certain way. So one angle looks like it's forward, one angle looks like it's back, one angle looks like it's down the side. I can guarantee you they'll look at that play and they'll decide what to call that in the future. It's very clear in the rules as to how to handle that situation. Because, man, it was so close. I mean, it was like straight down the line. Exactly.
And in those cases, I think when it's quote unquote too close to call, don't call it.
Well, and the question becomes, when is it a forward pass, right? You have to define a forward pass. So technically the ball never did cross the line of scrimmage. Even though the ball was going forward, does it have to cross the line of scrimmage to be considered a forward pass?
This play might even really go into the rule book, much like the famous Don Mikowski 13.5-yard line play that you were at to witness that changed a lot of things as well.
Oh my gosh. So good. Love that game. Love that game.
Oh, yes. Just hearing the story. I remember seeing it on television, but to actually witness it, Don Mikowski. What a guy. Now back to the listener voicemail line. You know that we have to hear from the Crazy Packers fan down in Texas.
Hello, it's me again, Crazy Packer fan. Just want to say, what are the Packers doing? They need to get the head in their game. That's all I got to say. And this is me, Crazy Packer fan.
Great to hear from you, Crazy Packer fan. And that sums it up as succinctly as possible. They need to get their heads in the game, Troy.
Yes. Take the ball and score. Do not defer that coin toss. I swear to God, if they defer on Sunday, I'm going to climb all the way down all 46 rows to the field, jump over the wall, and just... What
if the coin doesn't flip?
That's a different podcast. You can go find that back in the archives.
The Packers and coin tosses and deferring and not deferring. I wish there was a third option that they could just make sure they go with. But we'll have something special in store on the podcast next week if the Packers win the toss again and actually accept the ball and score. We'll definitely have something in mind for that.
Wayne, Troy, Art here from Texas. Well, it was a hard-fought battle with those Falcons. Packers didn't give up. They continued fighting and fighting, came up a little short. You know, I really feel that the game was a lot closer than what it appeared. You know, just a few calls here, a few little mistakes here and there, and it could have been a totally different game. Of course, it didn't help that we didn't have our two offensive linemen, Bulaga and Bakhtiari. But we'll keep moving forward, focus on the Bengals now, and Bulaga and Bakhtiari. And hopefully Randall Cobb will come back healthy also. I mean, the positives that we can take from this game is that at least now we know where the secondary stands and what we need to work on, and, you know, in the positions in the secondary. I was really impressed with Kevin King. He's been improving more and more every game. I'm just worried about Ty Montgomery. He's been doing really good, and it'd be sad to see him if he ever gets hurt, what we're going to do about the running back position. But let's look forward every week by 1 week at a time. And hopefully we can get a win next week. Thanks a lot, guys.
Art, thanks so much for calling in. Yeah, Ty Montgomery, again, they're saying that they want to curb his touches so that they can give him a nice even-paced situation out there when he's on the field. To me, the easiest way you protect Ty Montgomery is that you don't let him run into, quote-unquote, 12 to 13 guys in the box. We have this guy in the name of Aaron Ripkowski, who is a great fullback. We should be having a lead blocker. Ty Montgomery should have a lead blocker every single time he's out there, whether that's Ripkowski in a kind of offset eye situation, whether that's Randall Cobb coming over on a cross in a motion play, whether that's one of the tight ends coming in motion or at least running to the tight end side. If Ty is a lead blocker, he doesn't get hit as badly when he finally does get tackled, and he's getting the 5+ yards a carry. So the fact that we have these sets where there's nobody in front of Ty when he goes to run the football, that's why he's only getting 3 yards a carry and getting the crap beat out of him. So more lead blockers for Ty Montgomery gets us much more yardage, which opens up the passing game because we can commit to the run. It's not that the receivers aren't getting separation. It's the fact that the receivers we know where they're going because they have 2 plays. They have do what you're supposed to do, but I'm covered because I only pass the ball. So everybody knows the playbook by now. And then the other one is do the thing that Aaron wants me to do after I see that Aaron flushes out of the pocket, which means I can still cover that because I've seen that before because we play pretty much the same teams for the last 3 years. So you got to run the ball to establish that running game, which opens the passing game, and we just don't commit to the run.
Those are fantastic points, Troy. And Art, again, thank you so much for calling in and bringing that up. Ripkowski, when I saw him in the game the other night, it was almost a moment of, oh, I forgot about that guy, which is a darn shame. We should be chanting RIP at least a dozen times every single game.
No doubt. No doubt.
Maybe this week. I mean, being back at home and playing the Bengals and then playing the Bears, even if it's a short week, those two teams back to back could be the exact thing it takes to get our mojo back.
Well, when they're in single back, I'll walk down 46 flights of stairs, jump over the fence, and I'll go ask Rip why he's not in the game.
I'm going to have my eyes peeled on the television set.
I'm right behind the Packers bench. You'll see me for sure.
Keep your eyes peeled. Got one more voicemail here. Now, I do apologize. I don't know what went wrong with the cellular signal or the internet lines or what happened, but the first 40 seconds of your call was totally garbled. I could only hear 1 out of every 10 words. But you make a lot of great points, so I didn't catch your name. I know you're in Texas. Let's take it away and see what you have to say.
Hey, so it's so infuriating because the Packers won that game, but the refs took it away. Don't know if most people would agree with me on that or not. I mean, honestly, if it was the other way around and the Packers were the ones with the lucky breaks and those calling for them and against the fans, I would probably think something about the call and I would just be happy that, Packers still wound up winning. I would probably think the same thing. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for giving us a call at 920-3PACK-GO. And again, sorry we missed the first half of your call, but you make a great point. The game, especially the second half, was a lot closer than what the score appeared. The Packers didn't give up, and that was a very winnable game compared to last January, and just wasn't meant to be this time, Troy.
Yeah, because you literally spotted them the 7 points after the coin toss. We lost 34-23. You take those 7 points off the board, and it's a 4-point game. And then if you have the one that the referees completely botched, whether you want to call the lateral one where they score a touchdown off the fumble or the one that was called back on Cobb, we win the game. I mean, it's that simple. So the coin toss, I think, is the factor. The fact that you literally gave them a 7-point advantage to start the football game literally had us change our entire game plan of how we were going to proceed.
You say true.
I'm done talking about the coin toss now.
As long as we do the proper thing from here on out.
Oh, man. Great voicemails as always. Again, 920-3PACK-GO. Or you can email us like Caleb did from O'Connell Falls, Wisconsin. Caleb said, I wanted to give you my thoughts about the Falcons-Packers game, really noticing that our wide receivers were hardly putting any effort in the game other than another downer was the fact that we also lost a lot of key players on both sides of the ball. Another thing I did notice is that Coach McCarthy was penalized for something that he shouldn't have been flagged for. Anyway, until next time, gentlemen, go Pack Go, bleed green and gold till dead and cold. Caleb in O'Connell Falls, Wisconsin.
Great email. And yes, McCarthy getting penalized. There was a few occasions during that game where Coach McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers both looked like they were on the verge of having a brain hemorrhage, and that's not football.
They had brain hemorrhages. It was just a matter of how many they had.
It was unreal. So it was just the perfect storm of disasters and injuries, and you put everything together, and it's hard to win that game.
It's a new week, though. It's a new week.
Yeah.
15-1 is still a great record.
No doubt.
I think we've done that before, like in 2011.
Let's just do it again. Do it again. We also got a brand new shiny review in iTunes from the UK, which is extra fantastic. Says fantastic podcast. Cathal McCabe in the UK on September 11th gave us this great review that says, great podcast from two passionate fans with a good knowledge of the game. great sound quality, and go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go indeed. Thank you. Thank you. Man, it's like, and we're the world's podcast now for the Packers.
That's right. International. Unofficial Packers fan podcast. And we do strive ourselves on trying to make the best sounding quality as possible, considering you, sir, are in Illinois behind enemy lines, and I'm here in Southern California. I think we do a pretty darn good job of making it sound good.
Well, before we get to the bad news again.
There's more bad news?
There's more bad news. Some good news is that I actually purchased a brand new home this week.
Ah, nice.
The funny story behind this is that I go to the closing. We're talking to everybody around the table about Packers and the fact that I'm going to the game next Sunday and blah, 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 blah. And then we sign the papers and everything is good. And then they hand me the keys, and you'll never guess what kind of key they handed me.
If I had to guess, I would say a Chicago Bears.
A Chicago Bears embroidered key. I was like,
ditch that thing.
I was like, what did I just buy? Return it. It's got bad mojo.
Yeah, I think before you move in, you need to have some sort of ceremony, a cleansing.
Yeah.
Because who knows what went on in that house.
I'll wear the championship belt from Rodgers all around the house chanting, go Pack Go.
I think that should pretty much fix things up.
Oh, my God.
Bears. I mean, it's a beautiful house, and it looks like you're going to have a fantastic podcast studio.
Yes, where I can display all my awesome Super Bowl memorabilias. So I can't wait to put those up and get a picture for all you guys up there in the PackersCommunity.com. Make sure you check it out, because we'll put some pics up there once I get it all decorated and stuff. But we have 13, an unlucky number, 13 players on the injury report this week, Wayne. But
how is that possible that it jumped all the way up to 13?
Yeah, it was like 2 last week and then 13.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so this is just Wednesday. This is the first report coming out of practice. 13 names are on it, but we got some good news. So let's start with the good news.
Let's.
Brian Bulaga did return to practice after missing the first 2 games with his right ankle injury, and Jordy Nelson practiced despite dropping out of the game on Sunday with a thigh injury. So if they keep practicing all week long, they'll be playing on Sunday. That's a bonus.
Yes.
Also, Ahmad Brooks, who went out with a concussion in Seattle, was cleared to practice this week, so Ahmad Brooks will be back as well.
Yes.
Okay, so that was 3 out of 13. So here comes the bad news for the other 10. The bad news was that Cobb has a shoulder, Bakhtiari has a hamstring, Daniels has a hamstring, Kentrell Bryce has a groin, Devon House, so thank God Kevin King stepped up a little bit, because Devon House with a thigh, Nick Perry has an unspecified injury, Jake Ryan in the middle of the linebacking group has an unspecified injury, and then Jason Spriggs with a hamstring. All non-participants in practice today. Now, that doesn't mean that these can't change by Friday, but they have to practice at least one day this week in order to play in the game on Sunday. So, cross your fingers, we get a couple of these people back. Yikes.
Yeah, my fingers are definitely crossed for that, because 10 people, you almost can't even have a productive practice with that many less players.
Yeah, that's 10 people from the practice squad replacing the 10 people that didn't practice.
Yikes, indeed.
So here's where it gets even worse.
What?
So to make the injuries scarier on the defensive side of the ball, as a precaution, recently released, yes, Ricky Jean-Francois, who was let go after the first game of the season and put back on the free agent market, is now back with the Packers. Yes, this means they expect Mike Daniels to be out this weekend for making this move, but hopefully not longer than that. Where it's not officially listed as a transaction yet on Packers.com, Ricky did tweet out a simple hashtag 920 on his Twitter account. So Ricky's coming back. That doesn't bode so well for Daniels.
That's got to mess with Ricky's head as well.
I'm in. I'm out. I'm out. Is this the hokey pokey or is this football?
And when he tweeted the 920, he forgot the 3-pack go afterwards. But we give him partial credit because that is the area code in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
That it is. Oof. That's a lot of problems.
Even with those injuries and even with everything else, I have a good feeling about this game at Lambeau Field because you're going to be there.
I'm going to be there. Yes.
Again.
twice in 1 month. That's a lot of gas. I had a lot of Packers punch, but not this time because it's going to be so hot. Oh my goodness. Hot, hot, hot. Luckily, I'm in the shade this time because I'm back in my seats, section 122, row 45, seats 1, 2, and 3. So make sure you come on over and say hello, just like we had our UK friends come on over. Just come find me, section 122, row 45, seats 1, 2, and 3. Love to get a picture with you if you're at the game on Sunday. Now, the Bengals. Aaron Rodgers has never beaten two teams, Wayne, two teams in the NFL. I'll let you guess who those two teams are.
Well, I know that one is the Bengals because I heard, spoiler alert, they talked about that on the post-game show the other night. So the Bengals, I think he's beaten everybody else since he's been playing.
He hasn't beaten the Packers yet. So that's the second one.
Well, okay, if he follows in Brett Favre's footsteps, goes to the Jets, and then goes to the Vikings, then that can happen.
Right. So we'll call it 31 teams, but Rodgers has yet to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. He is 0-2 against the Cats, and he has a chance to correct that this week. If he does, he'll join 6 quarterbacks to achieve this milestone, which include Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Kerry Collins, and Ben Roethlisberger.
Even Kerry Collins getting into the mix. I
love it. So here's how things are going to happen this week if we're going to beat Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati needs to get A.J. Green more involved in their game, because when A.J. Green is involved, they actually win almost every single time. When A.J. Green has over 100 yards, the Bengals are 3-0-1. And when A.J. Green is less than, I think it's 50 yards, then they have 0 wins.
Well, then we need A.J. Green to not be involved.
Exactly right. So key to the game number 1, cornerbacks. Got to play up, got to step up. Got to know what kind of color and style and brand of underwear A.J. Green is wearing in this game. And if he is wearing any, I don't want to know.
I already tuned out.
Second key is pass protection. The O-line, as we mentioned, has given up 7 sacks in the first 2 games, so it'd be great to have Bulaga back. Cross fingers, as we need to be on the lookout for Geno Atkins from the Bengals, who has registered 3 sacks and 5 quarterback hits in his first 2 starts of the 2017 campaign. So we need to put some bodies on Geno and protect AR-12. Now, the Packers are giving up 5.1 yards a carry on the run game. Most of that came from Atlanta. But the Bengals' run game is only getting 3.5 yards per carry on each rush attempt. So this is a great opportunity, again, for the defensive line to get some small victories, because small victories lead to bigger victories. We cannot let that 3.5 yards per carry be more like 5 or 6 or 7. That's just not acceptable. But most importantly, the Bengals have scored just 9 total points in 2 games. 9 times they got a point. And Andy Dalton is completing 54.5% of his throws and only has put up 394 yards. So if the Bengals carve up the Packers secondary on Sunday, we will officially know what kind of secondary we have. And therefore, if for some reason the Dalton actually completes somewhere in the neighborhood of, 60, 70, 80% of his passes and throws for more than 300 yards, then not only should Dom Capers be fired on the spot, but Joe Witt should be thrown out the door as well.
Oh, snap.
Because it would be embarrassing to have any kind of passing yards put up against us when the Bengals are throwing the football this season.
That's a good point, but wow, this early in the season, I know the Bengals, speaking of firings, they fired their offensive coordinator after last week's game, so they've got a brand new guy in charge. And to have it happen this early in the season is kind of shocking.
Well, that might just be what we need, because if Cincinnati ends up scoring, yardage, points, whatever against our secondary, then our secondary is bad. Because it should not happen with a championship.
It cannot happen.
It cannot happen. I mean, if that point, just fire everybody.
Oh boy.
That would literally be an embarrassment. And I will be there to watch it happen.
Yeah. Well, make sure you get out your handy phone before and after the game, Facebook Live and whatever, because we don't want to miss it.
Yes.
The Bears, of course, we're not looking ahead too far, but we get the Bears after a short week. They're not doing very well. They're winless, whereas Jay Cutler's undefeated with the Dolphins. So
it was only 1 week. Be patient.
That's still a lot more victories than the Bears have.
That is true. That is true. But we don't want to be all downers this week here on the Packers Fan
No.
Podcast. No. When the Bengals are around, I feel it's only fair, especially after the low point this week, that we here at the Packers Fan Podcast help pick up your spirits and remember some of the amazing stories of the Packers of yesteryear to get us amped up and raise our spirits for the big game this Sunday. So we are here to do our job to bring back the Packers swagger to the G-Force. The stage is set. It is 1992. The Packers trail by 6 with 1:07 left in the ballgame against the Bengals. A quick out pass stops the clock, and what happens next? Well, just listen to this.
Got to go downfield, folks, with 1:01 to go on again. Favre steps up in a pocket, throws long upfield. There's Sterling Sharp. He caught it. He's at the 50 down to the 47-yard line, and they got no timeouts. You got to hurry. Come on. Now he's back to throw. On the down, comes up over the middle. It is caught by Workman out of the 35. 29 seconds left. Got to throw it in the ground. It's a first down. Stop the clock, Brett. 23 seconds left. I'll throw it anywhere. Throw it to Howie Johnson right there, and it goes with 19 seconds remaining. Favre goes straight back in the pocket. There's a man. He's wide open. Touchdown. It is caught by the wide over. And it is Kenley Taylor. And the Packers have tied the game. 13 seconds to go. I can't believe it, Jim. A great pass by Favre. These fans are going crazy. I mean, this thing is supposed to be over with, and the Packers are in position to win. Here's the ball now. The kick is on its way. The kick is up. Good. It's good. 24-23 to Packers.
Oh, yes. I am amped up. That is awesome, Troy.
The Cincinnati Bengals were the team that introduced us to Brett Favre and 16 years of Brett Favre and Packer football. So we just had to throw that one out there since we are playing the Bengals this week.
What a great beginning to the Brett Favre era. Packers have been great for the most part since then. I clearly remember that game because when Don Majkowski was injured, I started getting texts from a friend who hated the Packers and told me that we were now officially doomed.
The 80s are coming back. You're screwed. It's like, no. Such a great game.
This Favre guy, man, he's pretty good.
That game was so great. So great. Yes. But we look forward to even more greatness coming up on September 30th, right there, Sir Wayne?
Coming up in only 9 days. Troy, have you started your holiday shopping for the big day?
I have not started my holiday shopping, but I have some stuff that I bought last year that I'll definitely be sporting in 9 days.
It's the, third or fourth annual International Podcast Day on September 30th. It's a great day for podcasters, podcast listeners, and the entire podcast industry. They're going to be live streaming something like 36 hours straight from around the world at the International Podcast Day website, plus streaming the People's Choice Podcast Awards at 7 p.m. Central on Saturday, September 30th at podcastawards.com. We are a finalist in the sports category. Troy, we might win that one. It would certainly be nice. You're also in a couple of other categories as well for other podcasts. Your Blacklist Exposed is a finalist in another category.
Yep, and entertainment. And then our Westworld podcast for Beyond Westworld is up for TV and film.
And I forget the exact category. I think it's in the arts. The Resourceful Designer podcast. Our buddy Mark DeCote is a web designer, and his podcast is a finalist. And I record the voiceover intro for every episode. He's got over 88 episodes, and I do a different intro on every single episode.
Well, and there's actually another podcast that Wayne is on. You could say it's almost partly his podcast, too, because he records all of the movie trailers for Remake This Movie Right, which is up for an award in the entertainment category directly against the Blacklist Exposed. So Wayne and I are kind of frenemy enemies this week.
Going head to head at the International Podcast, the People's Choice Podcast Awards at International Podcast Day. There's a lot going on. September 30th. It's going to be a lot of fun. But again, like they say, it truly is an honor just to be nominated.
It is, definitely.
And
we won't defer the nomination either.
No, we will not. And the only reason that we are nominated is because of you listeners of the Packers Fan Podcast. You made it happen, so thank you yet again for getting us this far. It's fantastic. Now, it's time to officially take a look in. You shared the keys to the game. Now for some fun little tidbits that I dug out of this week's Packers Dope Sheet. We will link to the full Dope Sheet because it is a plethora of information. Bengals at Packers Week 3, linked at PackersFanPodcast.com/138. The 1-1 Green Bay Packers are back home in cozy Lambeau Field to host the 0-2 Cincinnati Bengals Sunday afternoon at 3:25 p.m. Central. Some things that really stood out. The Packers look to win their first 2 home games for the 5th consecutive season and for the 7th time in the last 8 seasons. So that's pretty good. It'd be nice if we just win all of our games, but home games, those are good to win. Including the postseason, Green Bay has won 5 consecutive games at Lambeau Field. Can I get a go, Pack, go?
Go, Pack, go.
And Green Bay has started 1-1, oh boy, for the 5th time in 6 years. So much for starting fast.
We also won 5 championships in 6 attempts of the NFC North. So I don't know what you mean.
It's better to finish strong than to start strong. I don't know. Let's just be strong. 6 of the last 7 contests between Green Bay and Cincinnati have been settled by 7 points or less, including each of the last 4. Based on history, this could be a nail biter, but I think we're going to buck the trend this week.
Heart attack meds at the ready.
Just in case, please don't let us win by less than 7 points. And the Packers are looking to snap a 3-game losing streak against Cincinnati and record their first victory over the Bengals since 1998.
Crazy.
It's time to turn that around. And now be ready for this. Have your eyes glued to the tube because Clay Matthews is just 1 sack away from passing Kabir Gbaja-Biamila for the most sacks in franchise history since 1982 when they started keeping track of those things.
Wow,
so
that's impressive.
I'm going to send out early congratulations to Clay Matthews.
Well,
maybe he'll get
you would think Reggie
2 or
White
3
would have been up there, but I mean, now he was like sack time, like all round, not just for the Packers. So KGB,
yeah,
haven't heard that name in a long time.
I know. We'll be hearing it on Sunday if Clay Matthews gets at least 1 sack, and maybe Kabir will even be at the game. I don't know. If I was him, I'd be there.
I would too.
Actually, if I was me, I'd be there. I'd take it. And although I'm not the biggest fan of how CBS airs NFL games on television, this is cool. CBS will broadcast the game to a regional audience with play-by-play man Jim Nantz and analyst Tony Romo handling the call from the broadcast booth with Tracy Wolfson reporting from the sidelines. And I've been hearing a lot of good reports. People are saying Tony Romo's doing a fantastic job.
Well, when you got to pass up Troy Buck, it's not that high of a bar to get above.
There's that.
I mean, okay. The next level up is Chris Collinsworth, and then you get to Tony Romo. I mean,
well, it's going to be an interesting change of pace to watch this game and hear some of the announcing. Some notable connections. Packers head coach Mike McCarthy and Bengals head coach Marvin Lewis were both assistant coaches at the University of Pittsburgh in 1990 and 1991. I had no idea.
Wow, that's a long time ago, too.
That is a long time ago, but it's cool they have that history. And Packers linebacker Ahmad Brooks, you said he's going to be back this week, probably. He began his career with the Bengals playing in Cincinnati from 2006 to 2008. That's back when the Bengals were winning a lot of games, probably due to Ahmad Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
So prepare for Sunday afternoon's game by reading the full official Packers dope sheet for the Bengals at Packers game, linked on our site. Again, PackersFanPodcast.com/138.
Man, it's going to be so hot.
How hot is it?
I never thought I'd say this, but it's like, it's too hot in Green Bay.
Come on down for opening day at the LA Coliseum. It's 101 and no shade.
Dude, it's going to feel like
you do have humidity there.
It's going to feel like 101. 86 degrees at kickoff with 64% humidity.
Now that's Fahrenheit, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to debate what to do because I've never not worn my jersey. I mean, even in the winter, I have my jersey over all my layers. I've never not worn a jersey to a Packers game, but those jerseys are so dang warm.
Yes, they are.
So I'm really debating whether or not I should bring my jersey or not this week.
So you might be the guy we see in the stands with a big P or G on his chest.
Oh, that's what I could totally do. I was thinking about just wearing a t-shirt, but yeah, I can absolutely wear a giant G or P. I'll even get my buddy who's actually coming from Cincinnati. I'll get him to make sure he has the G, and then I'll get the P going. So it'll be fun.
Your wife will be proud.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, even though it'll be hot, I'll be sitting in the shade. So hopefully it'll be cool enough because we are going to cool off the Bengals yet again. I mean, come on, 9 points in 2 games. There's no reason why I don't think this game could come down to Bengals 3, Packers 27.
I love it.
I mean, I'd love to see 42 again, like we used to see back when I went to these games. But I'm a realist too. So Packers 27, Bengals 3.
I'm a realist. Packers 27, Bengals 3. I would not be surprised. I have no idea what Vegas has for this game, but I'm going to predict along the same lines. Somehow the Bengals are going to get another touchdown. Packers 34, Bengals 10. So I think we have the same spread there. I just think there's the total points are going to be at least 44.
44. Let's see if there's anything that we can look at here on the ticker, just for an idea.
Tick, 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 tick.
9-point favorite, 44.5 of the spread.
There you go. 9-point favorite. All the points the Bengals have so far this year.
But you have the 44-point spread. So I guess you have to commit. Over or under, Wayne? Over or under?
Oh, I'm going over. I mean, I was trying to play it safe. I mean, we very well may finish the game 39-10.
All right.
Maybe 77-0.
That'd be fun. I will definitely take the under because I just haven't seen anything out of the offense yet in 2 games. So maybe this is the game where we break out because we're at home. But I think with the weather, cramps are going to be a plethora.
I hate that. We'll keep our eyes peeled. The game right now is not scheduled to air in my area, but there's always ways. And there is, of course, Jake's Italian Restaurant and Sports Bar down the street because we're here on the West Coast. It's earlier in the day, so they serve breakfast. If nothing else, I'll see it there.
If I remembered my battery, I could Facebook Live the whole thing, but I might get in trouble.
And there's no way in heck your battery or the cell signal or even the free Wi-Fi at Lambeau could last the entire game. But I appreciate the thought.
No problem.
Speaking of appreciating the thoughts, we appreciate our Patreon supporters. We want to thank again the Texas-only Green Bay Packers Fanatics Facebook group supporting us at the Brett Favre level. They never give up. They prove it again and again. And Alex J., thank you for supporting us at the Curly Lambeau appreciation level. We thank you for that. You too can support the show. Help us make it better. What are the details on how to do that, Troy?
You can go to PackersFanPodcast.com/support, or you can just head on over to Patreon.com/PackersFanPodcast, and that'll give you right into the spot where you can go ahead and give, $1 a month at the Curly Lambeau level, $4 a month at the Brett Favre level, $12 a month gets you the Aaron Rodgers reward level. I mean, at the Aaron Rodgers reward level, we'll give you a special recognition during the closing out of the show and include you getting to say the final Go Pack Go. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? So just $12 a month gets you the ability to be here on the podcast saying Go Pack Go as we close out the show. That would be absolutely fantastic. So head on over to Patreon, Patreon, patreon.com/PackersFanPodcast or PackersFanPodcast/support in order to see all the other ways, like using our Amazon link. Even easier, PackersFanPodcast.com/Amazon.
Thank you again for all your support. In fact, we thank you for simply listening to the show, telling friends about it, whatever you do to share the love. It's greatly appreciated. And we can keep the conversations going at our Packers Fan Podcast community Facebook group. So we have the group now. It makes it a lot easier for you to converse with other great Packers fans. You can simply search for us on Facebook or go to PackersCommunity.com. It'll forward you right over.
Yeah, and the TV season is right around the corner as well. So when you're done watching the Packers game, get ready because my podcast, The Blacklist Exposed, returns next Friday. So a week and a couple days from now, hearing this podcast, Blacklist Exposed will be back with the kickoff of season 5. And then Wayne is able to travel abroad and see the latest Philip K. Dick reincarnation, Electric Dreams. And that podcast will be kicking off. So if you're interested in sci-fi, Philip K. Dick stuff, make sure to check out Electric Dreams podcast on Golden Spiral. Both shows are on Golden Spiral Media. Head on over to iTunes, search for Electric Dreams, look for the Golden Spiral Media logo, and you know you're in the right place.
Yeah, by the time you hear this episode of the Packers Fan Podcast, the Electric Dreams podcast should be live. We're cutting it close to the wire. Just go to electricdreamspodcast.com. And I know that the show is doing really well in Australia and in the UK. And we know we have a lot of UK and some Australian listeners of the Packers Fan Podcast. So check those shows out as well. Please. Thank you.
With that, the unofficial Packers Fan Podcast has now come to a conclusion, and we will get ready to drive on up to Green Bay to hang out with all of you on Sunday. So again, come find me, section 122, row 45, seats 1, 2, and 3. Don't be afraid of the guy wearing the orange sitting next to me. He's my friend, but he is from Cincinnati.
Unbelievable. Cats and dogs living together.
Mass hysteria. But don't let that stop you from being a Packers Fan Podcast MVP. Again, PackersFanPodcast.com/support to let us know how much you love the show.
And listen to us on the go, to and from the game, or whenever a new episode of the podcast comes out with our free Packers Fan Podcast apps. We have them for iOS. We have them for Android. We try to cover as many people as we can. And for a lot of people, it's the easiest way to listen to the Packers Fan Podcast. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at PackersFanPod. Or you can even follow my solo account, my personal account, at Wayne Henderson.
Yeah, you might find pictures of me storming the bench if we defer the coin toss over there on Twitter at Packers Fan Pod. You can also follow me on Twitter. I am at Troy Heinrichs. And be sure to join that Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group. If you're at the game on Sunday, we want your pictures. Make sure you post them in there. Share where you're sitting. Share what you're eating. I mean, who doesn't want the legendary brat from the legendary smokehouse in the north end zone? That thing is awesome. And probably give you a heart attack as well.
I also wouldn't mind seeing some pictures of the cheese curds from the 1919 posted as well.
I will see if I can make that happen for you, bud.
I have fond memories of those cheese curds.
Squeaky ones are the best.
Squeaky. And much like all of the great callers and emailers we had in this week's episode, we want to include you in next week's episode as well. Go to PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback to get in your thoughts right after the game. If by some chance it's not a victory, maybe wait till the next day when everything's a lot clearer. But either way, we want to hear from you. Keep the conversations going online. We'll be back with another fun episode of Packers Talk coming up. But until then, thank you for listening to this episode of your Packers Fan Podcast.
Be sure to leave us a review in Apple Podcasts and don't miss any of our coverage during this 2017 campaign. Now, let's give them all a roar of our own as we go to fight the Bengals up in Lambeau on Sunday. It's a Go Package weekend. Everybody cheer all the drivers north with a Go Pack Go!